This is Miss Smith on the Art Teacher Maven YouTube channel, and we're going to talk about teaching how to make a pinch pot with young students, kindergarten and first graders, for example. The best way to start is by taking the clay and holding it in the hand that is your helper hand, and the hand that I write with is my hand that is going to be creating the snowball. So I'm going to use this cupped part of my hand to pack the clay, to pack the snow. If you've ever packed snow before, you just keep rotating the snowball around and packing. If we keep packing the same spot over and over again, it's just going to start to flatten out like a pancake. And we want to avoid the slab pancake shape. And we want a more three-dimensional round sphere. So I'm rotating the clay and hitting it with this part of my hand, this cupped shape part of my hand. My other hand is cupped also. It's like rounded, curved to hold the clay. So rotating it in all directions. So towards my fingers and towards my thumb, away from my thumb, so we get it rounded. There is no perfect in art. There's only our best. So this is my best snowball for right now. And what I'm doing is using the tips of my fingers to get little droplets of water from my water cup to smooth the surface of the clay. I recommend standing for this part of the project and not sitting down at all. It's going to make it a lot easier. So I'm just using little water droplets to smooth the surface of the clay. And that is good enough. And I'm going to use my fingers to tell a little story with the clay. So we're going to have a pinch pot party. And a pinch pot is made by pinching the clay. And it's not traditional pinching, like pinching and picking a flower or pinching and picking a strawberry. It's more like a duck's bill. It's a beak. It's straight. So in the story, we're going to have a pinch pot party. We're going to make a little clay pinch pot, and it's going to be like, you can imagine it during the story as a little house, a little adobe clay house. And the thumbs are going to be Mama Pig and Papa Pig. And Mama and Papa Pig are the only ones that are invited inside the clay house. And my four fingers, so these two are our thumbs, and they are Mama Pig and Papa Pig. And you have four big bad wolves. And the big bad wolves are going to stay outside the house. Because if we let them in the house, they're going to huff and puff and blow our house down. So we want to keep them outside doing this pinching motion. And the thumbs are inside. They're the best party guests, so they're allowed inside the house. And the wolves have to stay outside the house. So we have our sphere. The better the sphere, the better the pinch pot. So we're going to press to make an opening. So you can imagine a little jelly donut, that's the spot where the jelly would go. Because we just need a starting point to start the pinching. So we're going to pinch and turn and pinch and turn. We're going to keep the clay in the air the whole time. We're not going to put it down. And that causes my students to keep their thumbs inside. So this would be the bird's eye view of what it looks like when my students are holding their clay. Their elbows are pinched in, touching their bellies, and the clay is like this, upwards in the air. And the gravity is helping to form the pinch pot over my thumbs. So I'm just rotating and holding the clay. The wolves are staying outside. My thumbs are inside our clay. So what happens when I allow my students to put the project down, you'll notice the first thing they do is switch their hands around and put their hands in. And what happens when our fingers go in is the clay gets very thin and it starts to break or have holes, and it becomes very flimsy. And there's this wrenching motion starts to happen because there's 8 fingers, 8 bulbs, and they start to do this motion. So when the clay is upside down, we don't get that because this is the only way to hold it. So more students feel more successful the first time. If your clay has done this, don't feel bad. You just are going to reform the sphere. You just start back at step 1, which is the snowball. So you're just going to tap some water on here and make it back into a sphere. No problem. It's okay. Sometimes we drop the clay or falls, or we forget and we let the wolves in the house and they huff and they puff and they blow the whole house down. So this is what your pinch pot will look like. You sliced a baseball in half, or it will look like a bird's nest on a branch. If it has this quality, it doesn't look like, it's not a plate, it's not a bowl. It is a very specific thing in art called a pinch pot. When it looks like this, you've done a great job. We're going to take some water droplets on our fingertips, and we're going to smooth all of this out. Take some water, and we're just going to get rid of all that elephant skin, the cracking, the lumps, the bumps. It is best to work on top of a piece of paper because the clay will fuse to the table and your clay will get smaller and smaller as you leave particles of clay all over the table. And plus, if it gets stuck on a surface, we can peel this off. This is laminated paper that gets washed at the end of the day today. Clay dust is not great for our noses, eyes, or lungs. So it's important that you wash all this clay off your hands and we don't breathe it in. So we don't clap our hands together in front of our face or rub them, because we're going to get the clay dust all into our bodies and irritate our bodies. So I'm going to say that looks pretty good and looks done. It's deep enough. And I've smoothed the surface enough. And then my students have access to tools. There's little plastic tools for making designs or textures, writing their names. If you make something that you don't like, you take water and you can erase it. You don't want to use too much water because you're going to notice your clay is going to get slimy and your fingers are going to get slimy. And too much water will mean that the clay might start to crack as it's drying in places you didn't want it to crack. So my students are done forming their pinch pot and they have decorated it as they like. They can write their name, they can write their parents' names, they can make designs, houses, hearts, spirals. They're going to use, actually we should make a bottom, because see how this is very rounded because I haven't put it down yet. We're going to put it down. I take my thumbs and I just rock it a little bit to make a flat bottom. And then we have recycled materials such as blueberry containers, cherry, tomatoes, strawberry containers, and they're going to put their project inside, close it. They've written their name on the top and they're going to take it home today. They put on their coat, backpack, and they carry their little car seat home. When they get it home, they're going to open it to dry it away from fans, heaters, sunshine, windows. Just put it somewhere to dry for 7 days. And it will change color. It will start to take on like a lighter quality. It'll start to look white as it's drying. And then you may paint it. Because this is air dry clay. You may not eat or drink out of it. It's just decorative. It's just art. It's process over product. It's about getting the experience of touching clay and touching different textures and materials. And it's exposure. So that when we get a piece of real clay and a kiln, we would have pretty good experience of what to do with it. I also send the project home wet so that way if the container were to fall or to get squished, that we could fix the clay piece before it dries so that more students will have a successful outcome. You can also the student could also just keep the clay in a Ziploc bag with a little spritz of water and reuse the clay over and over again for fun and for experience. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching. Bye.